What's going on YouTube? Today we got another deck profile. This time is of Exorcisters. Um, so this is a pretty weird deck for me to want to play, but I kind of just wanted a rank 4 toolbox E kind of deck, and this is what I ended up doing. I do think that this version is probably just incorrect, in the sense that I built it very heavily for going first, so there's like a lot of traps. But when I was testing it with hand traps, it just felt a lot weaker because hand traps need to be paired multiples for them to have an impact in the game. So I wanted something that performed functionally better by themselves, and all the traps in here are pretty strong cards. So I decided to try that out. I'd like to apologize again for no content. Honestly, it's just been a lack of drive for me recently, but I think that's going to change soon. Things are finally getting better at home, and I'm going to have more money to put into the hobby. But yeah, this deck is very interesting. It's very fun. You guys didn't come for that little rant, but it's a lot of fun to play. It's a very fun rogue deck, and if your locals is full of like Phantom Knights or, prank kids, then this deck has the chance to do well. So let's just go on and get into it. For the main monsters, we got 3 Ellis. So all the Exorcisters have the effect that if an opponent moves a card out of their graveyard, then they can quick exceed on your opponent's turn using just them as a material, which is really nice. It makes it so like if you do just draw the one sister, then it's not a complete brick. But this is the most important one because if you control another sister, you can special summon her. It doesn't matter what the name is, but if you have Stella, you gain 800. This is the next most important one, which is Stella. Her effect is you can special summon an Exorcister from the hand. So the best one to pair with these is Sophia. Sophia's effect is you can draw a card if you control another Exorcister, and then if you have Irene on the field, you gain 800 life points. And then Irene, she's pretty bad. The only reason I'm playing her is so I could Vadist for Sophia, because the Vadist requires you to match the name with the text. So these two mention each other in text, so you need to be able to have Irene to play it. When you draw her, it's kind of subpar, but the power that Vadist gives is quite crazy. So because of that, I wanted to play the 10 sisters. Not much to really say about that. I feel like 10 is like the standard for these. So now we're playing level 4 extenders. We're playing 3 Wind Charmer Summoner, the 2 Fire Charmer Summoner, and 3 Shade Brigadine. So there's a very specific reason we chose to play Shade Brigadine instead of just 9 copies of these Charmer Summoners. And it's the fact that the Charmer Summoners do not function with themselves. And what I mean by that is they cannot summon themselves if you draw multiples. So I can't like have fire and wind and just summon them if I don't open a sister. But the theory was if I open a fire and Shade Brigadine, I could still make rank 4 because their rank 4s are all generic. So Brigadine, while it is dead late game, it lets you play early game, which is all this deck really needs, is to be able to play early to mid game. So I like this ratio. This ratio is honestly perfect. I wouldn't change it, except for maybe cutting just the Brigadine down to 2. And the only reason for that is just because I did overdraw a lot of these, where I drew just too many of these and just not enough ways to play outside of that. But I think, if anything, I would probably actually just cut one of the fires at that point. The wind one, we chose to play it over the water just because of the barrier statue as well. And then we are a DPE deck. Excuse the plasma. I traded my original DPE package to my friend, and my Dasher's not here yet. But it's not a big deal. The effect never comes up. A cool thing with this deck that a lot of other decks could do in theory is if this is in the grave and your opponent banishes the DPE for whatever reason, or just moves it, takes it with dark, whatever. This is a level 4. All the Ixies are generic in this deck, so it's pretty important to note For the Exorsister spells, we got the 3 packs. This card's actually crazy. I didn't know that this card searched any Exorsister card. I thought it only searched monsters. So originally, like when my hand was full of monsters, I would just not play this, and I would just like set it, because you could do cool stuff on your opponent's turn, like when they activate, just for example's sake, Monster Reborn, you could chain this and just have 2 effects trigger off of the moving net. But when I read the fact that it could get cards, this lets you really play through almost anything. The card's kind of crazy. 2 Armament. This card's also very good. Lets you exceed on top of any other Exorcister as long as you don't control that name already. When I was first playing this deck, this card was a lot better because I thought it could just let me go on top of any. Like I can go Mikolas into Mikolas. Not the case. And then the 1 Prohibition card. The card kind of sucks, honestly. It's got really cool niche matchups where you could pop spells and traps. So like an Eldritch just helps play against Eldritch, because it's also searchable by packs. So I don't like to say that it sucks, but it's really cloggy and you never want to draw it. You just want to search it when you want it. That being said, in the future I might actually side one of these as well, just for the trap matchups. Because against decks like that, it's kind of crazy, because all you have to do is attack with the Exorcister. And that's pretty crazy. And you get the free pop. It's only once per turn, but that's just a game of attrition. And we're playing 2 1-ofs and Called by the Grave and Double or Nothing. You see this, you know what we're doing. And Called by is just, in this deck, another trap card. And then we're playing the 2 Exorcister traps, Vadis. This card's cracked, but you don't really want to draw multiples, just for the fact that it is a hard once per turn, and it is kind of cloggy, because it doesn't let you play immediately, it lets you play in the mid-game, which is very important. So I'm glad I played 2. I see some people playing 3, I just don't think that's very good or correct. But if it fits their playstyle better, then it fits their playstyle better. I personally would just not play more than 2. We got 3 Sanctum and Scythe. Yeah. Everything else is Scythe locking, so we need 2 as well. Since we're a Destroyer Phoenix deck, and it's pretty easy to get into Destroyer Phoenix in this deck alone. You could do it pretty much off of any 2 bodies, at worst. It made sense to play these. I wanted to play 2 Scythe originally, but I honestly just could not get my hands on a second Super Rare or 2 Ultras, and I know it sounds silly, but I outright would refuse to play the Scythe, so they mismatched. But Sanctum's kind of good. You activate it, you resolve it, and if Scythe resolves after that, you win the game. Because that's the 1 turn of attrition that this deck needed. For the other traps, we're playing 3 Strike and 3 Gozen. Like I said, I wanted the highest impact possible traps that didn't nuke my own board. Everything is light once you get into the Xyz in the mid-game. It does conflict with these guys, but sometimes you just gotta play it. If you get to the point where you're just summoning lights over and over again, this card's insane because you can control the board. And when you have Destroyer Phoenix, this does conflict as well, but your first Destroyer Phoenix pop can just be this when you're ready to play again, because you could just send the light and not really care. And then you can just control the board, and then when you're ready to win, you just loop it out. That's it for the main. So we're going to do the side deck next, which is different than most of my other profiles, if not all of them. But I wanted to show you what I decided to do with the side. It's a 12-card side because I was playing Lightning Storms in here, but I traded them off. So, yeah, 12-card side. We got all of the high-impact traps, hand traps in here, and then 3 Imperm. So the reason we put these in the side is because these don't work as well when you're going first, obviously, with this deck. Because you're trying to set up a board that's also really mediocre, and it's really hard to protect, and these don't really protect it very well, but the traps do, and DPE. So when I'm going second, I cut all the traps, except for Vadis, obviously. And then sometimes I'll cut the Fusion Destiny engine if I need more space. Because you can very easily side 6 of these into any matchup, and it'll be clean. And then you could just find more room in other spots. Like there are some times where I cut some of the extenders. Well, I guess 10 cards when you're going second because you get these. So what I would do is I would automatically put the 3 of these in because these hit pretty much everything. and then I'd put 2 and 2 of Lancia and Imperm in, depending on the matchup. Sometimes it'd be 3 Lancia, 1 Imperm, or vice versa. But the logic was there, and then the Lightning Storms with the trap decks. But as I said, I traded them off, so I think in that case I would just play Cosmic Cyclone. You don't really need any going first cards because your main board suffices for that, but if you wanted to fit going first cards, you could. Also, this could just be sided in for going first. I just really couldn't find room, and it does have some dead draw matchups where you just never want to see this card, but you still do. So I didn't want to take that risk. Now we'll get on to the side, these great tokens. And for the first of the monsters, we got 3 Michaelis, however you want to pronounce it. The card's actually crazy. The thing with the Exorcisters is like their cards are all great, they just don't have recursion. They don't have late game. And that's a big problem. But, you know, if you can snuff them out early and get to the mid game where this deck really shines, then you should win the match. And yeah, this card's really good. It's a quick play banish on field or grave. If it was during the turn it was summoned, which is really important. Because you can also do it on your turn and banish your opponent's cards if you went second. And it's also the Spell and Trap Searcher. Then we got the 2 Caspatel. Caspatel is also very good. She's the Monster Searcher, but the turn she Xyz summoned, neither player can special summon monsters from the grave, which is very good. That being said, though, this is better than that in the sense that your opponent can't activate effects, or neither player can activate effects in the grave at all this turn. So the reason we're playing 2 of this one and 1 of this one, when this one is technically better, is quite literally for the fact that this is a Rhoda. It lets us play and make double Xyz on our turn. And then we got the 1 Gibrine while I talk about these. She's actually awful. She's just the imperm for the deck. But sometimes she comes up. But the reason it's so important to play 2 Caspatel and 3 Michaelis is because we're on Utopic Future. So because of Utopic Future, we're able to, if we open 3 monsters, and I know that sounds like a lot, but that's just how this deck works. If you open 3 monsters, you can go summon off of her and go get the Rhoda, and then you could special summon, shoot the name, Ellis, sorry. And you could summon, because you have one of the Exorcisters on the field being this, you can make this, get the Vadis, and then overlay into Future. So it's a really cute power play that you can sometimes do, and it was really worth it in the scenarios where it came up. That being said, it does kind of just auto-lose to Imperm, and your board is a lot weaker to things like Droplet, but your deck was never playing around those anyway, so just force them to have it and make your board a little bit better with these. It is very important that you have some form of like Omega Boss Monster, which is the next thing that we're going to be showing off, and it's the other part of the Boss Monsters. We got Utopia Double. So yeah, you know, that's why you saw the Utopia Double. But we're not ranking up into like Lightning for game, we're ranking up into Utopia Dragnar. So the reason we're ranking into Utopia Dragnar is because this gives us a Spell and Trap Disruption. When your hands are absolutely cracked full of monsters, like 5, and you can summon both Dragnar, Titanic, and F-Zero at the same turn, which is really cool that the deck does have that kind of like power. It's 2 negates, which is really cool for the amount of effort you have to put into it, though. It's not really worth it, but you get to, like, if you know your matchups, you can know which one is going to be better. This is the only good number to play, in my opinion, and that's the only reason we're playing it. But your extra deck is full of space, so like, you know, if you wanted to cut this engine and take out Double or Nothing, I wouldn't blame you, and you could just play more Link monsters. You can also cut one of her, I understand that too, but in testing, the 3rd one came up all the time, so I did want to play 3. Then we got Zeus. Not much needs to be said about him. You're playing an Exceed deck, and he's just free. And then, as you saw, we're playing DBE. The Anaconda, ironically, comes up a lot. You can make it pretty easily when you open 3 monsters. And I know what you're thinking, wow, 3 monsters to make a Link 2, why do you need 3? Well, the idea is, if you go 2, or actually I guess you could do it off 2 and get resources, but if you open 3, it's better because you can go Link into, or Xyz into Michaelis, get Vadus, set that, and then special summon your other to make your third, and you can go into Verte off that. But yeah, DPE is really good. I actually hard drew Fusion Destiny like a champ all week. Or all weekend, sorry. Never actually had to make Anaconda. So, but yeah, that's the deck profile. It's a little different. Usually I try to post more combo-oriented decks. But I really wanted to just play something different. You know, the format, in my opinion, is kind of stale, which is another reason I haven't been uploading. I don't really enjoy this format all that much, but this deck is a lot of fun. It was a nice breath of fresh air, and it kind of reinvigorated my desire to play different decks. So with that in mind, please remember to comment, rate, subscribe. We'll have more deck profiles coming up soon, including some spicy decks that some friends of mine are playing that I think are really interesting. Thanks for watching. Peace, YouTube.